Good afternoon, fellow photographers. My name is Jeff, coming all the way from Miami Beach, depending on how far away you are. It's been a while since my last video on photography questions and answers or specifics or things in the news. Really hasn't been a lot. A couple new cameras coming out, some lenses here and there. And I've already touched on this before, but they call it GAS, or gear acquisition syndrome. And I really haven't seen anything that has come out that is so startlingly different that would make me want to change, if any, for any type of camera system that's out there right now. I think most of us that are, let's say, aspiring amateur photographers, if it shoots at 10 frames a second versus 20 frames a second, if it's electronic versus manual, the edge-to-edge sharpness of a lens, the bokeh, or the blurriness behind your subject matter. I mean, some of those things, do come into play, but overall, how much are you going to improve upon that? Or how much has it been improved upon in the last couple of years? Yeah, there's faster readout speeds, everybody wants more megapixels. And, shooting with the Olympus system, which is, 20 megapixels for the OM-1. Of course, this one, I don't even know what it is, because it's, the OM-1 back in film days. But if you're just shooting pictures, or maybe even printing out 8x10s or something smaller than that, this is all you need. Again, when you get into larger megapixels, you get into more expensive camera, more expensive processing, meaning you'll probably have to get a laptop or a big computer to handle that file size. I do all my processing on my iPhone. I like to keep things portable. I can basically plug an SD card into the iPhone, and I can do all my processing there. If not, I can do it in camera, on the OM-1. Not as good as on the iPhone, but I just like to keep things simple. Keep it compact. That's what this is for. We're trying to keep things small, compact, easy to use. And that'll bring me to my next subject. Excuse me. I know people regularly don't drink coffee on these things, but hey, this is real life. Lenses. All these lenses coming out, different focal lengths. So it's got 2.8 aperture, or 2.1 aperture, or 0.095, what they call NOCT, N-O-C-T. I still don't know what the hell that means, but the less lenses you can effectively work with, the better. I myself, I think it was 5 for my Olympus OM-1 at the time. They were all pro lenses. I have 2 left now, because I primarily use the 40-150 Pro, the f2.8, and the 300 f4, because I do a lot of telephoto shots. Birds, wildlife, kite surfing, kiteboarding, all that stuff is far away. That's what I like to capture. I really didn't need, the 7-14. I think I used it maybe 2 days. And then I got a 12-40. I just didn't really like, I don't know, just something I didn't like about the lens. It was a pro lens, but just something I didn't like about it. Right now I'm filming on my iPhone 14 Pro. And that's right in my pocket all the time. And for close-up shots and shots, that I need like a, 14, I think it's a 14 on the wide angle, all the way to, I think it's 70, as far as the 3 the 3 times optical zoom, and of course it'll zoom a little bit farther than that, but it's really not that good. But I have that in my pocket if I need to, if I need to pull in something, a little bit closer where I can't get far enough away to use the 40 to 150, because in 35 millimeter terms, that's 80 to 300. And I always had this idea of getting a 150 to 400. With that fixed aperture, it's got the 1.25 teleconverter in it, but $7,500. Damn, that's a lot of money. And again, I got a 1.4 teleconverter, which I carry in my pocket just in case. So if I have the 300 f4 on the camera body, which is 600 millimeters, which most of the time is sufficient, I can just throw the 1.4 on and it's 840. Okay? But also, I can use the 2 times digital zoom on the camera, makes it a 1680. Now I know it, cuts down on the number of pixels or whatever, but if you're using the teleconverter, usually it's for something that's job specific. And you can shoot in RAW and you can shoot in JPEG. So for some reason, if you don't like the RAW file, you can still get the original JPEG, which will give you the shorter focal length that you're shooting with, because it doesn't take in the 2 times digital effect. That's only available in the JPEG. So if you shoot in the Pro, or if you shoot in the RAW, I'm thinking Pro RAW because of the iPhone, but if you're shooting in RAW and the JPEG, at the highest, I think it's called superfine, rating or JPEG rating on the camera, you'll always have that choice. And I guess it might slow down the number of, frames per second, but, it's not going to be that much difference. But that's my workaround for, lenses and carrying around a whole bunch of equipment. Like tripods. I'm shooting on a tripod right now, which, the iPhone, is recording on. It's the only time I use it. With the stabilization and the 300 f4, I don't need it. And I've never needed it on the 40 to 150, even though it doesn't have image stabilization built in. The stabilization in the OM-1 is more than enough. There's one other point I wanted to make about the Pro lenses, because somebody brought up in one of the comments, you really don't need to buy the Pro lenses. You can get one of the smaller aperture lenses, instead of an f2.8, you can get like an f4 and f5.6. Well, that's true. But this is something I came across in, Olympus's information on their owner's manual, and I'm going to read from it right here. If I can find it. Oh, here we go. For using the SH2 setting, which is basically, the high-speed setting without going to the Pro capture, the 50 frames per second setting is only available with the Pro lenses. Only available with the Pro lenses, except the 7 to 14. So if you have another lens on there, and again, I don't have a lens to check that out with, but that'll basically probably gray out and you won't be able to use that. Not a big thing, but there's always these little idiosyncrasies that are in there that you have to look out for, that you might want to take advantage of the Pro lenses, other than the great glass and the lower apertures. Another item, there's a lot of videos that I watch, a lot of creators, people with some great ideas, and I'm not going to list them all, but I'm going to list my compilations of the Olympus videos that I've watched and the photographic videos that I watch, and I'll have them in my notes. If you want to look that up and just click on it, it's publicly available. If you want to see some information on specifics for photography and for the Olympus series, I think you might find those helpful. Oh. Oh, last but probably not least, and this is probably something you're all aware of anyway, but when you're using the autofocus function on the OM-1, you want to have enough light to come in order to make that focus as fast and accurate as possible. Another reason for the pro lenses too. But you have 3 ways to get that. And it depends on what you want in your picture. Of course, you want to have the right aperture set for your depth of field, if that's important to you. You know, of course, let's say f2.8, you're going to have greater depth of field than you will at f16. Your correct shutter speed to capture the action that you need to if you want to stop. See what I did there? Stop the action. And ISO. Now, like any small image camera or small sensor camera, like this, micro four thirds, you don't have that much leeway to play with. But I have mine set up where I can go all the way up to 1600 ISO in order to get more light into the camera. And you know, using Photoshop Express on the iPhone when I'm editing, you know, I can take all that background ISO out. There really isn't that much in the subject because the subject is, you know, different textures, different colors usually. But you can always take that out a little bit too. I think it's called the luminance control. Anyway, it's in there. They got some quirky name for it, but it does work exceedingly well. But those are the 3 parameters that you want to keep your mind's eye in when you're composing your photograph. Do I have the right aperture? Do I have the right shutter speed? Do I need more light? Can I handle more ISO? Okay? And those things will be able to get you that picture. And you might want to crank the ISO up more because, you know, one thing you can't do is get that picture back. You can't go back in time. Okay, so if you need to bump up the ISO or maybe, you know, alter the aperture a little bit or even the shutter speed, do what you have to do to get the picture, see what you can do to make it a little bit better later on in your post-processing. But the more light you have, the better that sensor is going to work in the camera for sure. Other than that, I try and answer as many questions as I can. I do look at them, you know, once or twice a week on the YouTube channel. If you have anything that you have as far as a question for me, you know, please feel free to leave a comment. I like positive more than negative, like most people do. But if you have something constructive, you know, put it in there. You know, I'd be glad to hear from you. Also, I do have my Instagram, which I'll put in my comments or my description underneath as well if you want to follow my Instagram channel. You know, any increase in followers on YouTube or Instagram, you know, I do appreciate. And like I say, I do follow a lot of people, so please click on those links, you know, for my compilations of the Olympus and the photography YouTubes that I've watched as well. They might be something that would be very helpful and very informative for you. Other than that, goodbye from Miami Beach and have a great Sunday.